detailed Trump's assault on democracy in their brand new book. Also tonight, millions of Americans officially have the green light to get COVID vaccine boosters, but the CDC director's decision is fueling some new confusion. Why did she okay shots for frontline workers when her advisors voted against it? And the makeshift migrant camp under a Texas bridge has now been cleared. But the controversy over Border Patrol tactics continues. The president condemning the embarrassment on his watch. We want to welcome our viewers here in the United States and around the world. I'm Wolf Blitzer, and you're in the Situation Room. We begin with a real and present danger to American democracy coming from the former president of the United States. Donald Trump is clinging to his big lie tonight, despite new setbacks in that partisan Arizona election audit and the investigation of the insurrection. Trump took another hit just a little while ago. The White House now says President Biden will not shield Trump-era records from the January 6th Select Committee. Our senior legal affairs correspondent, Paula Reed, is covering it all for us tonight. Paula, the former president is lashing out as his bogus claims of election fraud are being exposed and undermined.
That's right, Wolf. Once again, Trump's claims of fraud are being debunked, this time in Arizona. And this comes as the House Select Committee escalates its investigation into the January 6th insurrection and efforts to sow doubt about the 2020 election, issuing its first subpoenas to 4 of Trump's closest allies who have all helped him promote the big lie. In his quest to spread the big lie, Trump has focused on the vote count in Arizona. His allies paid a company to find fraud. But 5 months and more than $5 million later, the results are in. They found none. In fact, a hand recount actually found more votes for Joe Biden. Late last night, Trump posted a statement online calling the firm reviewing the Arizona results highly respected auditors. But after the results confirming his loss were widely reported, the statement was deleted from his website. The sham process was conducted by the Florida-based company Cyber Ninjas, which has no experience in auditing, but a hand recount by the company showed Biden got 99 more votes than Maricopa County originally reported, and Trump received 261 fewer votes. Maricopa County Supervisor, Republican Bill Gates, bucked his own party to reject the sham process.
Those behind this, they don't have reverence for democracy. They are trying to sow doubt so that down the road they can again question elections if they don't turn out the way they wanted them to.
But the former president continues to spread the big lie. On Thursday, Trump published a letter to the Republican governor of Texas, a state he won by more than 5 points, demanding an election audit while making baseless allegations. Texans know voting fraud occurred in some of their counties. Let's get to the bottom of the 2020 presidential election scam. Hours later, the Secretary of State announced that Texas would carry out audits in 4 of the state's largest counties. Trump's efforts to undermine confidence in the system is being embraced by Republicans. In a recent CNN poll, most Republicans said they want Trump to remain their party's leader. And most Republicans also consider support for Trump and his false claim to have won the 2020 election to be an important part of their own partisan identity, alongside support for conservative principles. Nearly 10 months after the 2020 election, the former president continues to trash even his closest allies if they don't support the big lie. In a new book, Peril, authors Bob Woodward and Robert Costa document how Senators Lindsey Graham and Mike Lee questioned Trump's claim that the election was stolen.
These 2 Trump supporters come up with the conclusion, it's bogus. There is nothing there.
Now Trump is taking aim at the 2 lawmakers who were staunch allies and frequently seen by his side while in office. I spent virtually no time with them, Trump wrote in a statement. Lindsey and Mike should be ashamed of themselves for not putting up the fight necessary to win. This comes as the House Select Committee fired off its first round of subpoenas in its investigation into January 6th to 4 Trump loyalists. Investigators want to know what Trump and those around him did to try to overturn the results of the 2020 election, in addition to what was known in Trump's orbit about the planning leading up to the insurrection and how the administration responded.
We're moving with great alacrity, and essentially no one is off the table.
The committee has specifically targeted individuals they believe would be uncooperative. They include Trump White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, former Deputy Chief of Staff Dan Scavino, former advisor Steve Bannon, and Kash Patel, former Chief of Staff to then Acting Secretary of Defense Christopher Miller.
These are four important witnesses. They are all very close to the former president. Some were in direct communication with him on January 5th, on January 6th. They are reportedly in communication about how to overturn the results of the election.
On January 5th, Bannon predicted on his podcast,
all hell is going to break loose.
in a letter to Meadows, the committee noted he was allegedly communicating with the president on January 6th, and they also want to know more about his efforts to plan and prepare to contest the presidential election and delay counting of electoral votes. The committee is looking for a quick turnaround, and all four Trump associates are directed to produce relevant documents by October 7th and appear for depositions the following week. CNN has reached out to Meadows, Scavino, and Bannon for comment. Patel said in a statement late Thursday that he was disappointed but not surprised that the committee had subpoenaed him before seeking voluntary cooperation. The White House says President Biden is not inclined to invoke executive privilege to block any of these requests, and that is bad news for Trump and his associates, as this committee's investigation is really broad, and the subpoenas to this group of advisors is likely just the beginning.
Absolutely right, Paula Reed reporting for us. Thank you very much. There's a lot to discuss with our guests this hour. Journalists Bob Woodward and Robert Costa are joining us, and are the co-authors of the brand new best-selling book entitled Hero.
Thank you.
Good to be
Thank
here.
you.
Excellent new book. Thanks, guys.
Thank you
very much for writing it. Bob, you report extensively in this book, Carol, about Trump's developments leading up to January 6th, since January 6th and all that. But what are these new developments we're now learning about, telling you about the staying power of his allegations, the staying power especially among Republicans who continue to spout them?
Well, it's more than staying power, it's passion for Trump. The numbers, as you point out, are astounding. What we discovered in the reporting on the book is that two of the Trump loyalists, Lindsey Graham, Senator Mike Lee from Utah, conservative, very devoted to Trump, investigated these claims through memos that Rudy Giuliani and a White House lawyer named John Eastman gave them. And it was the kind of investigation almost predisposed to, okay, there's going to be supporting evidence here. They found the absolute opposite. Zero. Nothing. And both Senators Graham and Mike Lee went on the floor of the Senate and said, no, nothing, and walked away. So what does that mean? I mean, I think if you really want to look at the facts, as we tried to do here, and if you like Trump or don't like Trump, read what his allies concluded that this stolen election claim is untrue.
But do you see this as an assault on democracy by Trump and his supporters?
Well, we're just, people will judge it. What is stunning is, and Lindsey Graham, who, for Trump to say he's not, doesn't talk to Graham, they play golf all the time. They played golf last Friday, I believe. And so, the golf course and the political discussions are endless. So anyway, people can assess the facts here.
Bob, in the book, you outline how Senators Graham and Lee poured a lot of cold water, as we just reported, on Trump's allegations, the coup attempt, as it's being called. Now the former president, let me put it up on the screen, is saying this. This is the former president. Lindsey and Mike should be ashamed of themselves for not putting up the fight necessary to win. So does every GOP politician take note of that, of the former president reacts?
Let's understand why he's reacting in that way. The conventional wisdom on January 6th is that President Trump was idly watching television in the West Wing. What we show in our reporting is that on January 2nd, Mark Meadows and Rudy Giuliani are meeting with Senator Graham. On January 2nd through January 5th, you have a pressure campaign on Vice President Pence. You have a January 5th meeting in the Oval Office. Dan Scavino's in there. And then you have Bannon talking with the president on January 5th. So it's not just these two senators who are talking with the president. It's the president actively trying to get Pence to throw out the electors on January 6th, to get Scavino in one scene in our book, to help him to pressure lawmakers to coordinate with him on January 6th and do some kind of move to decertify Biden. Big picture, the January 6th Commission wants to know what was really happening January 2nd through 5th, as well as on January 6th. And that's why the committee has cited our book in these subpoena documents. They realized Bannon was talking to Trump in December, in January. Scavino was there working on the tweets. This was a massive operation on the Trump side.
You know, so much pressure was the former president, then president, actually putting on his aides and others to try to launch this kind of coup.
It was absolute. The investment. I mean, what the reporting shows, and Costa has the exact quotes. The interesting pressure was Trump to Pence.
Oh, that was the moment. It could have been a constitutional crisis. We've discussed this a lot. I mean, there was that Eastman memo that was first reported in our books. And done terrific reporting on it as well. And you see, this is not just a conversation on January 5th in the Oval. It's a document saying to the vice president from a conservative legal expert in the view of the Trump side, at least, that you can do this. And that's what he said to Vice President Pence on January 4th, meeting in the Oval Office. Listen to Eastman, Mike. Listen to John.
Look at these poll numbers. I want your assessment, because you've reported on several presidents over these years. So look at this poll. Huge jump in Republicans who have, quote, no confidence at all that the 2020 presidential election was fair. If you take a look, 63%. 63% of Republicans don't think the election was fair, compared to others. Take a look at 2016, 10%, 12%, 2008, 6%, 11%. No confidence at all. These are among the losing candidates' parties. Look at how it's jumped up to 63%.
It's astonishing, and that's why the proper word is passion that these people feel for Trump. And Trump has kind of, since he left office, January 20th, has laid out his rationale for the candidacy. It was a stolen election, and people are signing up to the stolen election argument. And, we spent months looking around. Is there something here? Is there some, and you now see in Arizona, they did the count, and it shows very clearly
So Biden actually got a few more votes.
Got a few more votes. And so, we put out the call as much as you can as a reporter to anyone in the Trump campaign organization. We want to hear. That's how we got to the Giuliani memo and a series of memos that he sent to Lindsey Graham, and the John Eastman memo by searching for and through Trump supporters.
No one's stopping him. We have Bill Barr knowing in November of 2020 that it's all BS, his words, based on our reporting on the voting fraud and the machines. And everyone seems to, around President Trump, know he's going in the wrong direction, know he's spouting lies about the election, but very little is done to corral him.
In the end, though, Pence, the vice president, did certify the election as president of the Senate. Give him credit for that. All right, the book is entitled Peril, Woodward, Robert Costa. Guys, thanks so much for writing this book. Must read.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very, very much. Just ahead, we're going to drill down on those new subpoenas for Trump loyalists to testify in the investigation of the insurrection. A prominent member of the January 6th Select Committee, the House Intelligence Committee Chairman, there you see him, Adam Schiff. He's standing by live. We'll discuss when we come back. Tonight, the January 6th Select Committee has issued its first subpoena as the panel targeting 4 top Trump loyalists. We're joined by a key member of the committee, the House Intelligence Committee Chairman, Congressman Adam Schiff. Mr. Chairman, thanks so much for joining us. Why are these 4 witnesses who've just been subpoenaed, all close Trump aides, so critical to your investigation?
Well, because they were in and around the president on these pivotal days, on January 5th, on January 6th. They were in communication, some of them with each other, others with the president. And we want to know, what was the administration aware of in the run-up to January 6th? What did they know about the propensity for violence among those that were being rallied to come to this Stop the Steal event, as the president's campaign billed it? What was going on at the Pentagon? And this will help us fill out the picture of what led to that bloody insurrection. And we need to know all the facts in order to be able to protect the country going forward.
The former President Trump, he reacted saying, and I'm quoting him now, "We will fight the subpoenas on executive privilege and other grounds, calling your investigation," once again, I'm quoting, "unselect committee." Does that threat by the former
what was going on at the Pentagon? And this will help us fill out the picture of what led to that bloody insurrection. And we need to know all the facts in order to be able to protect the country going forward.
Indeed, the former President Trump, he reacted saying, and I'm quoting him now, "We will fight the subpoenas on executive privilege and other grounds, calling your investigation," once again, I'm quoting, "unselect committee." Does that threat by the former president have any teeth? Because the White House, the current White House, says President Biden wouldn't assert executive privilege.
Well, first of all, it's very encouraging that the Biden administration is not going to allow those that were potentially implicated in January 6th to hide behind bogus claims of privilege. So that's very encouraging from the Biden administration. We wouldn't expect anything different from Donald Trump. Look, he spent 4 years stonewalling all subpoenas. He spent the last couple of years pushing out this big lie, and now he's continuing to push out the big lie. So this is not surprising. We're going to use whatever compulsion we need to get these witnesses to testify, and we went straight to subpoenas because we were aware that they might very well try to do what they did, frankly, in the last administration, that is run out the clock for years and years.
The chairman of the Select Committee, Benny Thompson, says if these witnesses don't comply, then, quoting now, criminal contempt or other measures will be open to us. That's a quote from Benny Thompson. What other measures, Mr. Chairman, are on the table?
Well, that is frankly the most, probably the most severe measure. There are a number of ways to enforce subpoenas, as we've tried over the last 4 years. There is civil efforts to seek to effectuate those subpoenas in court, but that can be very time-consuming. During the last administration, when Bill Barr was the Attorney General, he was doing everything he could to protect the person of the country, not the country itself, which meant, of course, that he wasn't going to assist in enforcing subpoenas. But it's a very different Justice Department now that puts the public interest first. And so if people, willfully ignore the law and they defy these subpoenas, then pursuing a criminal contempt is viable. And we would hope that we would have the support of the Justice Department in that. We have to reestablish that people can't simply thumb their nose at legal process and get away with it.
While you're investigating the lies that led to the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol, the former president is continuing this effort, lashing out at senators for not fighting harder for his coup attempt, calling on Texas right now, the state of Texas, to audit the 2020 election. How dangerous is all this?
It's extremely dangerous because what the former president is doing and has been doing is undermining one of the pillars of our democracy, and that is that we settle our disputes at the polling place, that we believe in our election system, that we have faith in our democracy. He's undermining that faith. In California, where we just had a recall election, the recall was overwhelmingly defeated, and of course Trump and his allies and Republican Party officials around the country make bogus claims of fraud, and sadly a great many people believe them. I saw some polling out of California that showed a very high degree of Republicans, high percentage of Republicans who believe now those big lies about the California election. So it's deeply damaging to our democracy.
It certainly is. Congressman Adam Schiff, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Coming up, a rare split between the head of the CDC and the agency's vaccine advisors on COVID booster shots. We're going to take a closer look at who's eligible now to get one. A rare move by the head of the CDC, Dr. Rochelle Walensky, splitting with her own vaccine advisors and backing COVID vaccine booster shots for people aged 18 to 64 who are at higher risk because of their work setting or living situations. The advisors had rejected that, recommending boosters only for people aged 65 and older and American adults with underlying medical conditions. Let's dig deeper with our chief medical correspondent, Dr. Sanjay Gupta. Sanjay, I want you and our viewers to watch how the CDC director explained her decision today. Listen to this.
I want to be very clear that I did not overrule an advisory committee that listened to the comments on the vote, and this was a scientific close call.
So walk us through what happened here, Sanjay.
Well, I think the biggest thing was basically determining how much of an impact would boosters have on healthy people under the age of 65 who worked in high exposure settings like hospitals, healthcare workers, grocery stores, frontline workers, that sort of thing. The advisory committee said that they didn't think there'd be that much of an impact from providing boosters for those people, and Dr. Walensky basically said she thought there would be. So it was erring on the side of providing more boosters. Let me show you this graph really quickly, Wolf. We put this together for you. You know, just saying, like, how much of an impact would boosters make on people? If you look at the far right of the screen, that's people 65 plus. You can see that blue graph there. That shows that there's quite a bit of impact on hospitalizations among older people. If you go to the left, people much younger, there's hardly any impact on hospitalizations because they're far less likely to be hospitalized. But there may be an impact on cases. How many cases of COVID are actually diagnosed in that age group before and after boosters?
Finally fucking open these
things. There seems to be
things.
some benefit, according to these modeling studies, of using boosters. But admittedly, it's not really ironclad evidence that the vaccines help as much with transmission.
So that's nice. They fixed the road. Oh, that's very nice.
Nevertheless, that was a specific disagreement.
So who should be going out right now, Sanjay, and getting a booster?
Well, I can put up the list here, and you know, it's interesting. If you look at the CDC's language on this, they have a couple of categories of should go get the booster: 65 plus age group, people who live in long-term care facilities, but also people ages 50 to 64 who have underlying conditions, and that could be a long list of conditions. I'll mention those as well. But then also eligible are people, again, 18 to 49 with underlying conditions, and anybody, frankly, above 18 who has a job that might put them at risk. People have asked a lot, Wolf, I'll tell you quickly, about what are those conditions that potentially make you higher risk for severe COVID, and that is also long list. Cancer, kidney disease, lung disease, including moderate to severe asthma, diabetes, obesity. So you can see the list there. When you add it all, people over the age of 65, and then people who may fall into the categories of having one of these conditions, you're talking, 170 million people, roughly. So even though it's still in these categories, it's a large segment of the population.
Right there, Sanjay, I'm going to stand by. I'm going to bring in Dr. McLaughlin, Vaccine Education Center at Children's Hospital. The FDA Vaccines Advisory Committee, and he's the author of a brand new book that you see the cover, Bet Your Life, Blood Transfusions and Mass Vaccination, Long and Risky History of Medical Innovation. And thanks very much for writing this book. Thanks very much for joining us. As I said, you're one of the FDA advisors. What do you make of the CDC director's booster guidance, Dr. Walensky's decision to go ahead and basically challenge what some of your advisors were telling you?
I think this would have been a lot easier if instead of saying greater than 18 year age, they had said greater than 30 years old, both for the sort of high risk individual as well as just for people who work in occupational institutions where transmission is high. Because that's what worries people. What worries people is the 18 to 29 year old is at higher risk of this side effect of mRNA vaccine.
You have a Mini Cooper JCW, and that's how you drive.
Pfizer mRNA vaccine a much greater immune response
Oh,
with the third
no
dose than
signal.
the second dose. And so I think people
It's
are
driving
worried
like a
that
little
individuals,
bitch.
for example, who are not at high risk of hospitalization or death, such as, for example, a healthy young 18 to 29-year-old, and now you're giving a third dose, that you might actually find that you're increasing the risk of myocarditis, and that the benefits may be outweighed by the risks. I think that's what this boiled down to. There were two things that were said, though, yesterday in the CDC's meeting that hopefully didn't get lost. One is that the COVID working group said the priority is vaccinating the unvaccinated. That's our best chance to get on top of this pandemic. And the second thing they said that I think was really important was they said that for those of you in the general public who have received 2 doses of an mRNA-containing vaccine, you should consider yourself fully vaccinated. Because I think what happened, I think, with this under this whole sort of Biden administration push for a third dose, this kind of third dose fever, is that there's a lot of people now who wonder whether or not they really are vaccinated, and I think we scared people.
There's still 70 million or 80 million Americans who are eligible for a vaccine who have refused to get the shot, at least so far. I hope they change their minds. And Dr. Offit, as you know, Dr. Fauci is cautioning people not to get their boosters too soon. And you write in your new book, You Bet Your Life, that there's some level of risk in every medical decision. So you're saying the risk is too high for the general public? Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm saying that the data that we have right now for the general public is that 2 doses of mRNA-containing vaccine, whether it's Pfizer or Moderna, appears to provide excellent protection against serious illness. That protection includes Delta variant and it includes all age groups. So right now there's not a problem in terms of protection against serious disease. The issue then, however, is that over time with these kinds of vaccines, the neutralizing antibody response in the circulation will start to decline. With that decline, you'll have an increased incidence of asymptomatic infection, mildly symptomatic infection, even low moderately symptomatic infection, during which time you can be contagious. So the thinking was, okay, if we give a third dose, maybe we can decrease contagiousness and make some impact on this pandemic. But the question